Well, welcome to Greenford and the rather noisy A40 Western Avenue. And the reason why I'm here is to shoot a bit of video of this, which, although it says Lawn Stewart PLC, which I assume is some kind of building company, I need to check that out. It is in fact the original factory, built in 1931 for the Aladdin Company of America, who made kerosene lamps, decorated lamps and heaters, and then later things like insulated flasks. So this building has stood on this road obviously now for nearly 100 years, and it escaped demolition after it had closed sometime in the 70s. And it was eventually taken over by B&Q, and now it's the back of it is now a Dunelm mill, or Dunelm, which I can show you in a second or two. But it's worth just having a look at this building. I did an article about this, and I'll put a link to that, which I am constantly amazed as to how much interest it's had over the years. When I did it back in 2014, that's on my WordPress site. So it's quite, I mean, it seems quite big, but it would have gone back a lot further because they sort of chopped the back of it off. But it's quite, even though it's 1931, and everybody seems to think that everything built in the 1930s, especially a factory building, should be Art Deco. This is not really Art Deco. This is more like an Italianate Campanile, I think they're called, tower. And you'd expect perhaps there to be bells in the top. I don't believe there is. But we also have the stars on the entrance here, which are rather nice touch. I assume that's an allusion to light given off by lamps, and may have in fact been part of the company identity. But you'll notice a rather grand classical entrance as well, which again doesn't really fit in with that time period. It is more really a sort of more established look, which is possibly defined by the company back in America, because I say it was an American company. This was their sort of British offshoot, like a lot of companies. American companies decided to set up in Britain and have their manufacturing here to beat tariffs, import tariffs, and allow them access into empire markets, the British empire markets, and potentially into Europe as well. So say this is the A40, which would have been widened back in possibly the 60s or 70s. It didn't come out as far as this, but originally when this building was built, it was fields. And again, that is something I put in my article, and you can see some links to some Britain from above pictures which show this factory in sort of splendid isolation in amongst fields, because the A40 didn't arrive until a few years afterwards, and then it just scythed through the front. But it's rather fascinating, because there are like sheep and stuff in the fields. It's agricultural land. This is, after all, Middlesex, or was Middlesex. I know it's disputed these days, but this is Middlesex countryside. So just move around to the back now. You can see how the building was somewhat truncated. Although if you go into the Dunelm store, and again I took some pictures today and I'll put them up onto that WordPress article, you can see the original fabric of the building as it goes back further that way, because that's sort of clad. I think that extension was put on by B&Q back in the 80s, and it's just been redone. It's not, at this angle, it's probably, for a lot of people, it's not that remarkable, and because it's the Dunelm mill, perhaps that takes away any specialness. They haven't gone to a great deal of trouble on the upkeep of the building. It's a bit of a shame, really. It deserves a bit more. It is a real survivor. So I'm just going to go around and show you another side to it, so that you can see how the brickwork sort of stops. There's probably more behind that sort of clad area where Dunelm is, but it would have gone back a bit further. And in fact, actually, beyond this point, there is a big trading estate which is run by Segro, who the people who set up the Slough industrial estate back in the 20s and 30s. So yeah, I suppose nothing too remarkable, but that building has got a lot of interest, really, and it's a real landmark building, and I say that in the article I did, even though that article was written quite a long time ago. So I'm just going to go up onto that bridge there, so it's going to afford a different view. So there we are, we're on the bridge now, overlooking the A40 and the Aladdin building in the distance there. We get a slightly different view of it. A lot of bricks. I don't know what's in that tower actually. I suppose it's one of the things you really should find out, but it's poetically you'd like to think there might be some bells inside there, because it does look like a bell tower. So a lot of like these American companies, it was very much about making an impression that they had landed in the United Kingdom and they set up business and they wanted to impress people. They obviously knew that this road was coming in, so they built it in advance of that, knowing full well that people would pass by in their cars and it would act as an advert. So people would say, oh, have you seen the Aladdin building? And they still do. And I assume that people in the local area who've been here for a while will still refer to it as the Aladdin building. And long may that be the case, because they're the people who put it up. But as I say, it is a rather truncated version of its former self. Now, if you keep going on this road, you'll be heading towards Perivale and the famous Hoover building. Now, that's quite a way up that way. So I'm not going to try and walk that. But just to give you an idea of the fact of when I was talking about countryside earlier on, over here you get quite a good impression, because this is in fact, on this side, is a park. And in fact, one of the pictures that I took for the article I did all those years ago, I took from this park, and the tower you could see over the trees. Again, just underlining the fact that it was countryside. You see how quickly you can just knock out that road and it's not there anymore. A bit of land that hasn't been built on, remarkably. So there we go. So do have a look at the link, which will finish off with a proper shot. Do take a look at the article I did. The link will be at the bottom of this video, underneath the description. And as I said, it's an article that I did originally in 2014. I updated it last year, put a bit more text in there. There's all the notable bits in there about the history of the company. It's not a massive history, but it's just enough to perhaps interest you more and read about it. And as I said, quite remarkable, the continuing interest is, out of all the articles I've done on WordPress, it is the most popular one, and I still scratch my head wondering why. Quite a lot of people look at it who are in America, I can see that. So because it's an American company, and rather gratifyingly, when you put in Aladdin Factory Greenford, quite remarkably, the first thing you hit at the top of Google is my article. So that article was done just really as just a bit of a laugh, really. I mean, I didn't really take it that seriously at the time. I wanted to just write about it because it's a building I remember from being a lot younger, going past this building in the car, my father's car. So yeah, that just goes to show you, sometimes when you put a lot of effort into something, it doesn't always work out. And something you just do as just a bit of fun can be very successful. Although I wish I had royalties from it, because I've done quite well out of it. But there you go, it's not always about money. Thank you for watching.